So who are the impact players at the running back position in this year's NFL draft class that's coming out? I'm going to also talk about what the outlook for the running back position is overall, because I think a lot of people devalue the running back. Of course, they say it's not as valuable as it used to be, whatever that means. And of course, I have to do my rankings for the prospects coming out. We got all that and more. Start right now. Yo, what up, though? It's Aaron Duncan here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. I do recap and analysis typically about the Carolina Panthers, and I also do a ton of draft content. I'm going to be dropping a bunch of draft player profiles leading up to the NFL draft to give deep dives in the film room about those guys, and also rankings and videos just like this one talking about the running back position here in particular. So please stick with me as I use my powers for good and I decide to take my talents into this NFL draft and talk about this class, and hit that subscribe button down below. That way you stay on top of all my videos. And I'm also closing in on my goal of 15,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button to help me get there and stick around, because I want to talk about this running back position, because just the outlook of it overall in the league. Now, of course, people talking about running back is not valuable. Look at the last couple of teams that played in the Super Bowl, that won the Super Bowl, and their leading rusher and what their salary was and all this and that, and they don't pay running backs, and they just tend to buy into this narrative. And there's a lot of not to be too mean, but I guess nerds in that's taking over football, and it's just they look at paper, they look at numbers, and they try to kind of box things in, when mostly it's a little bit more of a nuanced conversation, because there are the running backs that are definitely worth the money. We clearly see Christian McCaffrey has been worth his weight of gold playing for Brock Purdy and stuff like that. This guy has that all-around skill set. He's an impact player in the pass and the running game, and he's just a feature guy. And it's not so much of teams not being able to build their team around paying a running back. It's just they tend to get a running back and feel like, oh, I paid this guy all this money, let me get all my money's worth from him. And they end up running them into the dirt, and it usually doesn't work out long term. But I think the running game is just still as important as teams start to play more too high shell coverage and try to not give up the big play. The teams that are patient enough to dink and dunk to the wide receivers, but also commit to the running game against lighter boxes, can have success. But if you can also double down with that and have the running backs who can catch those dink and dunk passes, but also run the ball as well, you just open up another element for your offense overall. But I still think that nowadays, guys are still getting paid. We saw Joe Mixon get paid. We saw Josh Jacobs get paid by the Packers. The guys that are the feature backs, the guys at the top of the line, they get paid. Saquon Barkley, he's had some injuries in his career. He still got paid. Upwards of what? AAV of $12 million. So the guys are getting paid. Yes, you can find production in the draft later and later rounds. So that's why people want to say that they're so replaceable. But if that was the case, everybody would be doing it. And it's just not as easy as just drafting a guy in the 5th or 6th round and him becoming that guy. You have to be able to identify these guys, know what role they can play, and then maximize those capabilities. Like I said, if it was that easy, legit, everybody would be doing it. So it's just not as simple and clear cut to me as just saying that you can find guys anywhere in the draft. Why would I even try to do that? You can find quarterbacks later in the draft, like Brock Purdy. You can find edge rushers. You can find wide receivers like you found with Puka Nacua in the 5th round, or Dontayvion Wicks, a guy like that in the 5th round. So why do people spend premium draft capital on wide receivers, especially when the classes are getting deeper? So that one-track mind is just, it's so mind-numbing to me, and it really just bothers me. But just overall, I still think that, like I mentioned, finding a role for the guy that you bring in is going to be the key. Now, what are these type of roles? Because I think everybody nowadays pretty much does running back by committee, even the guys that are getting a supreme paycheck. Like I said, the mindset of, I paid this guy all this money, let me get all the I wear and tear out of him that I can. It's not smart. The best way to protect your investment is to still do committee, but give your lead back that you paid that money for the lion's share of the carries. They have that every down skill set, so they can get more snaps. But if you want to go the committee approach and bring in just different guys, what types of running backs are there now in the league and what types are coming out. Now, the bruising, bigger running backs are always going to have a place if that's the style of offense that you want. If you're like a Deontay Foreman or a David Montgomery, a guy like that, those that are bigger, or Derrick Henry, the bigger backs that they're not necessarily bruisers all the time, but they're guys that defenses don't want to tackle. They get tired of tackling them when you give them a volume amount of carries. And these are guys that can be change of pace guys when you have a scat back to start, or you can put a scat back with them and change the pace. But coming out, I think Braylon Allen is a key example of that. Braylon Allen is a guy that's coming out of that Wisconsin system who was used to be known for more of a downhill running scheme, as we saw guys like Melvin Gordon and Jonathan Taylor coming out running that style. But they've recently changed their style, and Braylon Allen's last year in school, they ran a little bit more out of shotgun, but he's still a bigger back, 245 pounds, built like a tank. He's one of those bigger backs that you give a volume amount of carries in a downhill running scheme, he can do some things for you. Another one is Audric Estime. Audric Estime is a guy that's a bigger back as well. Didn't run the flashiest of 40-yard dashes, but he's a guy that shows some agility and some movement in the open field as well. So he has a little wiggle for a man his size, but just a guy that he can wear down defenses. We saw that from him on the college level, that when you continue to give these guys carries and you're stubborn with the running game, it's going to wear down, and these guys do not want to tackle this guy when you get him to the second and third level. These are guys that you typically have to get stopped before they get going. But like I said, not too many teams are going to feature these guys without having a little lightning to mix it up with. Like I talked about David Montgomery, you see they have the Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think that's a good segue into the next one, because you have these younger guys that have come in that are just speed track guys. They run ridiculously fast 40s. They're not always the biggest all the time, but that straight line speed just continues to translate when you can try to get them to the perimeter. When I think about that on the next level, I think about Devon Achane for the Dolphins, so they just picked them up. Who ran 4.2, 4.3 coming out as well. Jahmyr Gibbs was 4.3, 4.4 coming out. Good straight line track speed, very, very fast. But also a guy like Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell last year came out. He was undrafted, but ended up going to the Baltimore Ravens. Ran in the 4.3s, if I'm not mistaken. Was very productive at East Carolina. A little bit smaller of a back, but he ended up being the featured guy until he ended up getting hurt. But they had the guy like Gus Edwards, who was a bruising, bigger running back, and they used Keaton Mitchell as a change of pace. And Keaton Mitchell had a great run down the stretch until he got hurt. But those track speed guys that can translate to the NFL immediately and have a role in the right system. And when I think about that, about guys coming out who fit that bill, I think of a guy like Jalen Wright coming out of the University of Tennessee. This is a guy with blazing track speed in his background, but a guy that can get to the perimeter and put a lot of pressure on defenses. You can actually feel them getting tight and feel their anxiety through the screen when a guy like him gets to the perimeter. Whenever you can blaze through some of the best defenses in the country, in the SEC, and make those guys look slow, that kind of speed is going to translate to the NFL. So that guy like that can have a role in the NFL on the next level. But you also have the pass catching guys. They may not be a guy that you can run between the tackles every day, but we've seen guys like Danny Woodhead in the past. James White was a guy for the Patriots that had 10 plus receptions in that Super Bowl when they came back on the Falcons with Tom Brady. Probably should have got MVP, of course, but that's a whole nother story. And of course, we see what Christian McCaffrey does in the receiving game as well. So using the running backs out of the backfield can be something that you can actually have when a guy that actually can run the route tree has some suddenness, and you can match him up on linebackers, or if they have to walk a safety or a nickel down, he can win against those guys as well. They're not going to be able to run the route tree at the slot necessarily and be able to get open that way, but when you have against defenders that are not as strong in terms of coverage, like linebackers and safeties, these guys can win. And the guys that are coming out that I think fit that bill is going to be a guy like Will Shipley out of the University, out of Clemson University. Will Shipley doesn't have the best hands, but the suddenness and his ability to just jab his foot in the ground and come across on those Texas routes, those angles routes, run some wheel routes to the sideline, those arrow routes to the sideline, catch it and get upfield and make things happen in space. Will Shipley is the guy that fits that bill. Another guy, smaller, Bucky Irving. His testing was a little bit disappointing for me, but I still think that he can carve himself out a role, being able to play in space and make things happen for a guy that's a little bit miniature. But like I said, very James White-like in terms of being able to catch the ball out of the backfield with that size and having some wiggle to make things happen and maximize the yards that he gains on checkdowns, swing routes, arrow routes, the screen game, all the above. You're not going to pound them between the tackles consistently. You're going to play them in space and get them the ball in space and let them get matched up. You may clear it out and let him operate in the middle of the field, run that option route or that angle route, and make things happen. Kamani Vidal also showed those type of skills at the Senior Bowl as well. I had to give him a shout out too, because he's a smaller guy that was very productive in college, a tough runner, but he showed that element of being able to be a weapon, a consistent weapon, to be able to win in the receiving game as well out of the backfield. But you have the every down skill set guys. They have a skill set for first, second, and third down, meaning they can catch the ball, they can pass block, they can run between the tackles. If it's short yardage, they can do that. There's a couple guys in this draft. These are the guys that are going to have that upside to be able to become one of those Josh Jacobs or Joe Mixons down the line. One of those guys are going to get a bag, because these are the guys that you don't have to take off the field. You don't have to rotate with them. They may end up getting a big second contract down the line, but these are the guys. And the guys that I think of in this class is going to be Trey Benson. Is a guy that has an every down skill set, very good weapon out of the backfield, great speed, showed it at the combine, breaking 4.4 in the 40-yard dash. A guy like Marshawn Lloyd as well, short and compact guy, is able to catch the ball in the receiving game and be a weapon there, very, very quick in open field, and just a guy that's very, very shifty and a playmaker with his ability to kind of set things up and even reverse field with a guy with that type of speed and explosiveness. Ray Davis is another guy like that. Ray Davis is a guy that has been compared to Ray Rice with that low to the ground running style, but a weapon in the receiving game, can catch the ball down the field and track the ball well. Even for a running back out of the backfield on wheel routes and corner routes out of the backfield, he's been very, very good at doing that, being able to play in space and banging inside as well, being a short, compact guy. And Jonathan Brooks, a guy from the University of Texas, obviously coming off that ACL injury, but he's shown the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield with natural hands, being able to be in space and make things happen in the screen game as well, can run between the tackles, can run to the perimeter, can make it inside in short yardage. These are the guys that I think have that upside to be able to be, like I said, the man in the backfield and carry the mail for your team. But like I said, the roles and positions of the landscape of this position is changing. It's changing. And like I said, you're not always going to get that group of every down guys out of there. And those every down guys aren't always going to be a first rounder. They're not going to be Bijan Robinson. I don't think there's a Bijan Robinson in this draft either. I doubt any running backs go on day one. I doubt it. In day two, we'll see. It'll be somewhere, I think, early to mid-second round. We'll get a run on running backs once one goes. I think those every down skill set guys can start to make a run for that, and you'll start seeing guys getting drafted for roles as well, because some guys are higher on certain running backs than others when it's just as bunched up as this draft class is, because you start drafting for what you're looking for in your system. So pay attention to see what order these guys are taking off the board, because that lets you know the vision that these franchises have for these backs. So let's get into my running back rankings. Honorable mention running back on my list is going to be Audric Estime from Notre Dame. Audric Estime is a big back that can put pressure on a defense when he starts getting downhill. He's a tough tackle for second level and third level defenders, and his underrated athleticism and agility in the open field. He shows flashes of having good feet to navigate traffic and the patience to follow his blockers on gap scheme runs. He's at his best when he can hit a clean hole and really go full speed, and he's shown to have long speed to be able to break some chunk runs at times, even though his testing numbers weren't always up to par. Even at his size, he's more of a powerful back than an explosive, punishing bruiser, and I'd like to see him run behind his pads a little bit more consistently. His vision can be inconsistent at times, as it feels like the game is moving too fast for him ever so often. He's probably best suited for a downhill running scheme that allows him to have a clear path hitting the line of scrimmage with a full head of steam. My RB number 5 on this list is going to be Jalen Wright from the University of Tennessee. Now, Jalen Wright is a home run threat waiting to happen. Meaning anytime he touches the ball, he's a threat to score thanks to his track background. Anytime you see a running back pulling away from SEC defenses, it's going to jump off the screen. His elite speed puts a lot of pressure on defenses when he gets in space. He had one of the highest rates of missed tackles forced in the country, which pretty much resulted from defenders simply being too slow to get clean hits on him. He's just a straight line guy because he can make devastating lateral cuts and also mix it up between the tackles when need be. His pass protection skills, that will allow him to see the field early in his career because they are above average for most running backs coming into the NFL. He doesn't really have natural hands, but is definitely a capable receiver out of the backfield. And at times, his vision can be a little bit suspect, and he can get pretty much locked in on his assignment. And it's kind of weird because many times he'll miss opportunities for cutbacks and opportunities to bounce outside. And sometimes guys that have his kind of speed get too happy bouncing outside. For it to be the opposite for him, it's a little atypical. All in all, he's also shown the ability to grind down yards, but sometimes his feet can stop on contact, and he doesn't always move the pile. He ran into a very wide open offense at Tennessee with favorable boxes with some 5 and 6 defenders in it at a time. And sometimes he'll have to demonstrate on the next level that he can operate in more of a crowded space. But regardless, I feel like there's always going to be a role for a guy this explosive in a running back by committee approach, and pairing him with a guy with a lot of power will be the way to go. My number 4 running back is Ray Davis from the University of Kentucky. Now, Ray Davis is a short, compact back that has a 3-down skill set that can allow him to be a feature back on the next level. He shows great burst that allows him to be able to run through arm tackles or even bounce outside and beat defenses to the corner. He runs behind his pads well and constantly falls forward. He runs with great pace in the zone running scheme and can stick his foot in the ground and change direction. His ability to transition from east-west to north-south is top tier in this class. And in the pass game, he's a capable weapon out of the backfield that shows ball tracking skills downfield. On screens and checkdowns, he attacks the defense in space, and you can feel the anxiety from defenders on tape. His short and low to the earth running style reminds you a little bit of kind of Ray Rice. My concerns with him, it goes into pass protection. He seems to recognize and diagnose blitz as well, but he can stop his feet on contact and tends to just throw his arms into blitzes instead of shooting his hands properly. He's also can be inconsistent hitting plays with proper timing just because of some of the indecision ever so often. All in all, I feel like Ray Davis has shown all the traits to be a lead back on the next level in a one-cut running back system. My number 3 running back on my list is going to be Marshawn Lloyd out of the University of Southern California. Marshawn Lloyd is a twitchy, compact running back that has the lateral quickness and the burst to be a big play threat in the run game and the pass game. He has the feet to avoid defenders in the backfield and wiggle to make the defenders miss in the hole. Built compact and runs behind his pads to break arm tackles and move the pile to finish off his runs. He's got a dead leg in his game that can make defenders look silly and allows him to break explosive runs on a consistent basis. Between his contact balance, burst, and reliable hands, he has all the traits to be an every down back. Where he falls short is in the ball security department. 8 fumbles over 323 touches is a problem. That's roughly once every 40 carries. You can't be relied upon to be an every down back if the ball is consistently put in jeopardy, because it appears to be a fundamental issue for him, whether it's the wrong points of contact on the football or how he carries it or not switching ball hands when he's running to certain sides. It's just something that needs to be fixed, and it could ultimately cost him from being RB1 in this running back class. The next honorable mention for me is going to be Braylon Allen, running back from the University of Wisconsin. Braylon Allen is a running back at 6'2", 245. He has the size and strength to be a thumper on the next level. He holds a good enough burst to be able to run through arm tackles that can punish defenders on the second level with his bruising style. Sometimes he lets defensive backs off the hook, but still has a stiff arm in his arsenal that he'll use on smaller defenders. He shows good patience and feel for gap scheme and run the setup blocks and cuts off them with pretty good timing. I don't think he has the hip flexibility to be a consistent one-cut running back in the zone game, but I think in something he can really work on going forward. He's better off being in a downhill running scheme that allows him to hit the line of scrimmage with a full head of steam, his shoulder square, because sometimes he struggles when there's not a really clear pathway for takeoff for him, kind of using an airplane analogy. But he has adequate hands, but not much of an asset in the passing game. Wasn't really used much like that in college as well. I think Allen has the age and the build to be a bell cow running back in a committee for a team that wants to use him to wear down defenses and rotate with a faster or more dynamic running back. My running back number 2 is Jonathan Brooks from the University of Texas. Now, Jonathan Brooks is a running back that has a moderate playing experience in college, but tremendous upside as a potential lead back on the next level. He shows good feet and spatial awareness to navigate traffic cleanly and hit the hole with good speed. He shows good vision as well on the second level and the ability to make unblocked defenders consistently miss in tight spaces. At 6', 218, he has the size, strength, and contact balance to run through arm tackles and defenders who just won't wrap up. If I had to characterize his running style, it'd be more of a cruising pace, as it looks like he's running at the beat of his own drum. And although he's nowhere near the speed, His run style kind of reminds me of Jamal Charles, but don't be fooled. He definitely has the breakaway speed for big plays once he's in space. Looks to be comfortable catching passes as well at the backfield on swings, arrows, and screens. And my concern really is he can run high at times and doesn't always finish runs by dropping his shoulder. This could leave him exposed to taking major hits and not protecting himself. And although there's a lot of tread on the tires because he only had one season being the featured back in college, the question will be how close he can be to his old self after rehabbing from his ACL injury. This ultimately kept him from being my running back one, but if he can get back to what he was, this is an every down back on the next level with budding skills that will thrive in a one-cut zone blocking system. And my running back one in this class is from the University of Florida State University, and it's going to be Trey Benson. Trey Benson is a back that's built sturdy with the NFL body and a skill set to match. He has tremendous contact balance that allows him to fight for extra yards and maximize every run. He pairs that with A+ leg drive that moves piles even within big scrums on the field. Running behind his pads allows him to shrug off arm tackles with ease and become a bowling ball that makes him a tough tackle on the first and second level. He also shows a good patience when following blockers and the ability to change pace to explode through the hole. He shows good route running out of the backfield as well and a dependable pass catcher with natural hands. I think there's more upside for him in the pass game as well on the next level. He runs with choppy or kind of a marchy stride that can cause him to take longer to get where he needs to go. And his change direction isn't always sharp and explosive. It can feel almost like he's swerving instead of pretty much just cutting sharply. That wasted motion feels like it can leave yards on the field by giving defenders time to close in. Overall, he has the traits to be a lead back on the next level and should have plenty of tread on the tires after moderate college usage. But I got to give you a few sleepers really quick before I let you guys go. Some sleeper backs in this class is Blake Watson out of the University of Memphis. He was an Old Dominion transfer, has an every down skill set as well. Transfer up from Old Dominion to prove that he was able to compete with some of the bigger names. Just had a productive year as well, over 1,200 yards. He's a name I'll be paying attention to. Kamani Vidal is somebody I mentioned before out of Troy University. He had a great Senior Bowl week showing the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and be able to win in space that way. He had a very heavy workload at Troy, but a very, very tough running back even for a guy his size. My next sleeper is going to be George Halani from Boise State, another guy that has an every down skill set, has some injuries in his past. He pretty much had a lot of tread on, a lot of wear and tear on him as a back because he was the lead guy from day one at Boise State. But like I said, still has a smooth running style that can play in a one cut to be able to get downhill and make things happen. A guy, like I said, with an every down skill set, a guy that you could probably put in a rotation if you believe that some of those injuries are behind him. I really like Halani's game. And my last sleeper is going to be Cody Schrader out of the University of Missouri. A very small back, doesn't really have the superior athleticism for a guy his size, but a very tough, productive runner at Missouri and showed the ability to catch the ball in the backfield. A very competitive guy that has quickness and some vision to be able to be a guy that's a hard worker in a running back rotation, can come in and second, third down and really take some pressure off of whoever you have in the backfield. But this guy is so much of a competitor. I believe in what he can be and that he can find a role on the next level at some point. May not be your feature lead back, but definitely a guy that can definitely carry the load and carry the mail for you and really help you in the running game very early on. So that is my running back spill and rundown for this class. You guys let me know down below in the comments who I might have missed as a sleeper back. Let me know what you think about my rankings as well, because I know running back, everybody has their favorites and their certain styles, but let me know who I missed, who I should have put in my top 5, and who should have been out of my top 5. Let me know how you feel down below in the comments. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for more draft content and also Panthers content. I'll see you next time. Peace.